Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. Buying my first home felt like stepping into a dream. It was a small but charming two-bedroom house on a quiet street, tucked away in a neighborhood where nothing much ever happened. The price was suspiciously low, but the agent assured me the previous owner had simply moved out of state. Motivated seller, she said, like that explained everything. I moved in on a crisp autumn afternoon, unloading boxes and setting up furniture. The house felt cozy, safe, but something about the hallway bothered me. It seemed too long, longer than it should have been. The floor plan I had studied obsessively before moving and showed a standard layout, but when I measured the walls, the numbers didn't add up. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe the architect had gotten creative with the space. Maybe it was just an illusion. But the thought burrowed into my brain like a splinter. Then one night, I pressed my ear to the wall. Hollow. The sound made my skin prickle. There was a space behind the wall, a room that wasn't on the floor plan. Curiosity is a terrible thing. It pulls at you, whispers in your ear, dares you to do the things you shouldn't. And so, even though every instinct told me to leave it alone, I didn't. I grabbed a hammer and started prying at the wooden paneling. The house groaned in protest, the nails screaming as I pulled them loose. My hands shook, my breath coming short and fast. The moment the panel gave way, a gust of air rushed out from the darkness beyond. Stale, damp, wrong. There was a door. It was small, barely wide enough for a person to slip through. The wood was old and warped. The hinges rusted. It wasn't locked, but it resisted as I pushed. When it finally gave way, the smell hit me first. Raw, damp, the kind of musty air that settles in places where things have been left too long. I raised my flashlight and stepped inside. The room was small, barely bigger than a walk-in closet. The walls were bare, except for deep scratches that ran in jagged lines from floor to ceiling. Some old, some fresh. And then there was the chair, a single wooden chair, facing the far wall. My breath caught in my throat. The chair wasn't dusty. It wasn't covered in cobwebs. Someone had been here. Recently, the air shifted. A sound. Soft, wet, breathing, not mine. The flashlight flickered, and in that brief moment of darkness, I heard the unmistakable creak of wood. When the light steadied again, my stomach twisted into a knot. The chair had moved, just an inch. That was enough. I bolted, nearly tripping over my own feet as I slammed the door shut and hammered the paneling back into place. My hands were shaking so badly that I almost couldn't hold the nails steady. I told myself it was over, that I had imagined it. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, telling myself 100 different lies. Then, just past midnight, I heard it. Tap. A soft, rhythmic sound coming from inside the wall. Tap, 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 like fingernails, like someone waiting. The tapping came every night after that, always at the same time. I tried ignoring it. I played podcasts, turned on the TV, anything to drown it out. But no matter how loud I made the noise, I could still feel it. That presence, sitting just beyond the wall. And then the dream started. I would wake up gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat, convinced that someone had been in my room. The air always smelled wrong, thick with that same rot I had smelled in the hidden room. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. Then, one night, I snapped. I got out of bed, grabbed the hammer, and ripped the paneling open again. The door was still there, but this time it was open. The chair was gone. I stepped inside, heart pounding in my throat. My flashlight trembled as I scanned the room. Empty. Then I turned around and saw the scratches on the inside of the door. Fresh. I ran. I ran and didn't stop until I was standing in the middle of my front yard, panting in the freezing night air. I moved out the next day. I don't care about selling the place. I don't care about getting my money back. Some things aren't meant to be found, and some doors should never be opened. Story 2. When my wife and I moved into our new home, we thought it was perfect. It was sleek, modern, and filled with natural light. A fresh start. The only thing that didn't fit was the mirror. It hung in the hallway like it had always been there. Too heavy to lift, too ornate for the house's style. Old, intrusive, wrong. We planned to take it down immediately, but things kept getting in the way. The drill broke. The screws wouldn't come loose. My wife got dizzy when she stood too close, her skin going pale as if she were going to faint. And then, of course, we forgot. It became part of the house, like a guest we hadn't invited but couldn't ask to leave. The first time I saw her, it was past midnight. I had woken up thirsty, padding to the kitchen in the quiet dark. As I passed the mirror, a flicker of movement caught my eye. Just a shadow at first, hovering in the reflection. I stopped, turned. Behind me, the hallway was empty. But in the mirror, she was there. A woman, still watching. Her face blurred like fog on glass. I spun around, my breath stuck in my throat. No one. Just the quiet creak of the house settling. I forced myself to look back at the mirror. Empty. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I told my wife. She laughed. Just a dream, babe. You were probably half asleep. But the next night, she wasn't laughing. She came out of the bathroom, pale and shaking. I saw her. She whispered. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. She was standing right behind you in the mirror. We covered it with a sheet. I should have felt relieved, but that night I woke up to a sound I didn't want to hear. Something dragging across the floor. I lay there frozen, trying to convince myself I had imagined it. Then came another sound, a soft rustle. I forced myself to get up, my heartbeat thick in my ears. My phone's flashlight wobbled as I stepped into the hallway. The sheet was on the ground. The mirror was uncovered. And she was there, not blurred, not distant, clear, close. Her hair was long and black, draping over thin shoulders. Her dress was white, but not in a way that meant purity. It was the white of something left too long in the dark. And this time, she was smiling. Not at me. For me. A smile that said, "Now you see me." A smile that said, "Now I see you too." I turned and ran. We slept with the hallway light on that night. But the next morning, we found it flickering. My wife tried to avoid the mirror, but I caught her glancing at it when she thought I wasn't looking. Something was wrong. It was inside her now, too. On the third night, I woke up to a sound that turned my blood to ice. Laughter. My wife's. Low, soft giggles, like someone whispering a joke into her ear. I reached for her, but she wasn't in bed. My stomach twisted. The hallway was dark, except for the soft glow of my phone's flashlight. She was standing in front of the mirror. Her face was too close to the glass. Her breath fogged it up, her fingers pressed against the surface. "Baby," my voice cracked. "What are you doing?" She didn't turn around, didn't blink. I stepped closer, gripping her shoulder. "Come back to bed." She exhaled against the glass, fogging it up, and then, slowly, the fog cleared, and there were two of her, one standing beside me, one inside the mirror, both smiling. I yanked her away, dragging her back into the bedroom. I slammed the door, locking it. She didn't resist. She just smiled. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, watching my wife breathe, rise and fall, wondering which one she was. In the morning, I called a priest. By the time he arrived, the mirror was gone. The hallway was just an empty space. No markings, no damage, like it had never been there at all. But at night, when the house is quiet, we still hear something. A soft rustle, a faint giggle, and sometimes, when we walk past that spot, we catch a flicker of movement in the reflection of the window. She's still watching, and I think, one day, she'll find her way back. Story 3. We moved into our dream home last summer. A spacious 3-bedroom house nestled at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. It had everything we wanted. Hardwood floors, a big backyard for our golden retriever, Duke, and most importantly, a finished basement that I planned to turn into a home theater. The previous owner had left behind a few pieces of old furniture. Nothing fancy, just a battered wooden table, a couple of worn-out chairs, and a rocking chair tucked away in the corner of the basement. It was old, maybe antique, with deep grooves carved into the armrests, as if someone had sat there for years, fingers idly tracing the wood while they rocked back and forth. I didn't think much of it. At first, the first night in the house, things started small. The kind of stuff you brush off when you're getting used to a new place. The sound of pipes knocking, the floor creaking in the middle of the night. Normal, right? Except the basement door was unlocked the next morning. I could have sworn I locked it. I remembered turning the key before bed. But when I checked, the deadbolt was undone. The door cracked open an inch. Duke refused to go near it. He just stood in the hallway, ears pinned back, growling low in his throat. That was the first time I felt it, that uneasy pressure in my chest, like something was watching me. I shook it off. It was just a door. Maybe I forgot. Maybe the lock was old and loose. That was the logical answer. The second night, I woke up around 2 a.m., needing a glass of water. As I passed the basement door, something fell off. I stood there for a moment, staring at the knob. It was unlocked again. This time, I was certain I had locked it. A cold prickle crawled up the back of my neck. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. I could feel it, the weight of something standing on the other side of that door. Listening, waiting. I locked it again, double-checking, then triple-checking before heading back to bed. The next morning, my wife, Emma, asked, "Why did you go to the basement last night?" "I didn't," I said. She frowned, but I heard footsteps down there. I forced a laugh, waving it off. It's an old house. Creaky floors, Emma didn't look convinced. That night, I finally went down there. I told myself it was to prove there was nothing to be afraid of, but deep down, I needed to know. The stairs groaned under my weight as I descended. The basement smelled like dust and old wood. My phone flashlight barely cut through the thick darkness. And then I saw it. The rocking chair. It wasn't where it had been before. It had moved just a few inches, but it was closer to the center of the room, as if someone had been sitting in it and pushed back when they stood. I swallowed hard, my pulse hammering. Maybe Emma had moved it. Maybe Duke had bumped into it. A rational explanation. There had to be one. Then the chair rocked. Slowly. Back. And forth. The air turned ice cold. My breath hitched in my throat. I wasn't alone. I ran. I bolted up the stairs, my hands shaking as I locked the basement door. My chest heaved. My mind screamed for logic, for reason, but I saw it move. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that chair swaying in the dark. The next morning, Emma was pale. "You were in the basement again," she said quietly. No, I wasn't. She grabbed her phone, her hands trembling, then explained this. She pulled up the baby monitor app. We didn't have a baby, but we had set up a camera near the basement entrance to keep an eye on Duke when we weren't home. The motion sensor had been triggered at 3:12 a.m. My blood turned to ice. On the screen, the basement door opened by itself. A shadow stepped out. Not mine, not Emma's, not Duke's. A tall, dark shape stood just inside the doorway, motionless. Then, slowly, it turned its head toward the camera and smiled. That was the last night we slept in that house.